Now, from your vantage point, it sounds like you're born again. It sounds like you're saved. It sounds like you have new desires. You desire scripture. You desire God. You're everything is new. However, it sounds like taking some of these things from the Christian Science, which I love how you said is neither Christian nor science,
Yeah,
and
man.
infusing it into this Jesus, this historical Jesus, kind of sent you down a bit of a wonky road, if you will.
Mhm.
And but what was the door out sounds like it was just like healthy apologetics and a good framework for how to
And
approach
reading the
scriptures.
Bible, I believed that God was fixing the mistakes in the Bible by giving us these spiritual teachers. And it wasn't Christian Science per se, that was my
Hold
family's
on. You
background.
got to say that one more time because that's a gem that many people miss when we're
What?
thinking about this. Say that one more time.
Mhm.
You said that God gave us speakers to
Yeah.
fix the mistakes in the Bible.
Yes, and here's the thing, and we'll get into this, I'm sure, but this is what really grinds my gears about the whole "touch not my anointed,"
Mm-hmm.
people, yeah, like the prophets, like there's a line to cross with that. If you believe that you can get a direct word from God, a direct word, either from yourself or by somebody else that seems to be gifted in that, and you're looking for some sort of confirmation for something that you're going through in your life, and you are purposely looking for signs, you're purposely looking for people to talk to you about this situation, whatever it may be in your life. Why would I have need to go read the dusty book on my shelf for answers if I can hear from
Wow.
God directly? So it's so easy to be able to substitute those things for legitimate Bible reading. And I was obsessed. I would say that I was addicted to the supernatural. I felt like my experience was way more palatable than reading the Bible. Why would I need to read that? I feel like maybe there's some spiritual truths in this. And this is very similar, by the way, to what a progressive Christian would believe. But yeah, I believed that. I believed that there were limits to the Bible, and these people they were super spiritual and had this one way line to God, the red phone to God, if you will. They were the ones that they could really speak into this moment right here and right now.
Hearing Melissa's story showed me how much New Age teaching could be a slippery slope. It got me thinking, what are the telltale signs that my church, or maybe your church, could be influenced by some of this teaching? Who are some predominant Christian thought leaders that may be consciously or subconsciously allowing this influence to seep into what they're presenting in a Sunday morning church service? So what Melissa and I are going to unpack next may shock you in terms of what teachings and voices you may need to look out for. Give me some examples of what you would consider a New Age teaching that has crept into certain circles, and we can get as specific as you want to.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually really define what is the New Age, because it is like pinning down a cloud. And it's an umbrella term, first of all. It's an umbrella term for Gnosticism, paganism, pantheism, Buddhism, Hinduism, reincarnation, psychic mediums, tarot card readers, universal energies, and much more. And the things that I practiced in the New Age. And I, again, didn't realize this wasn't New Age. I thought this was things that like Jesus did. These were the deeper metaphysical teachings that I believed that Jesus taught. We're having a spirit guide, trances, crystals, manifesting, visualizing, meditation, which is different than biblical meditation, by the way, auras, which is like seeing a glow around people, which is something my mother actually experienced, power objects, clairvoyance, and clairaudience, which are just fancy words for like developed psychic abilities, extrasensory perception, hearing voices, things like that, contacting angels, all these things. So you have this umbrella term, right? And my friend Stephen Bancars, he wrote a book called The Second Coming of the New Age, and this is how he describes it. Quote, "The New Age is a collection of beliefs and practices aimed at bringing enlightenment. The goal is to elevate our spiritual condition to a level of self-divinity. This movement teaches that we don't become divine, but that we already are divine. The enlightenment that the New Age movement seeks to bring about is arrived at by leaving a state of self-ignorance and realizing that the inner self is ultimately God." So think of it like this. It's like a solid bar belief system, right? And this is why it's so hard to describe, because you can pick and choose from the worldviews that you agree with the most, and basically, in essence, create your own God. You can create your own belief system. And that really is the essence of what the New Age is and why it's so hard to define. Because I was a Christian, and I believe to this day, I was born again. I was just very biblically illiterate. I was ignorant to it. And I think this is why, looking back, I can see these things in hindsight now that I'm where I'm at and sound the alarm for that. I'm like, hey guys, this is how this happened to me. It's all the same though, because what it does is that it mixes truth with untruth. And it's the serpent's lie. It's the divinity of self. It's all about self. And this is where a lot of the self-help stuff comes in. This is where a lot of the I have power, you have the power can come in. And to be specific, I'm going to name some names here, of modern New Age, straight out, just flat out New Age teachers, and then maybe some overlap of even some pastors that people might know that teach what they teach and are actually friends with a lot of these New Age teachers. First is Deepak Chopra. He's a really well known in New Age, especially with his meditations. He's really good friends with Oprah. I mentioned her before. Eckhart Tolle, which was somebody that I was really into. Marianne Williamson, Wayne Dyer, Rhonda Byrne, who is the author of The Secret, which took our country by storm years ago with the law of attraction. Yeah, that was huge. I thought that was just, wow. Those were things that I was taught growing up. So the fact that this was a mainline cultural thing at that point, I thought was a good thing. Little did I know. And somebody else that I always like to name is Richard Rohr. Richard Rohr is actually out here where I am. He teaches at the Center for Action and Contemplation here in Albuquerque. And he's a well-known progressive pastor, Franciscan priest, to be clear. He quotes the Bible, talks about Jesus, even wrote a book called The Universal Christ. And so he's definitely progressive. And I would ask also, everybody pray for these people. I think it's really important to understand that these are still people and they still need our prayers. It's not like we're on here trying to, pin them in a corner and grab our pitchforks and our, torches.
Sure,
No, I
sure,
mean,
sure, sure.
yeah, pray for them. These are people that have feelings and they need the gospel. Basically, that's how I kind of want to describe the New Age, what it is, right?
Yeah.
So
is it can we put a little God theology in there? I didn't hear you mention that.
yes.
Little God
So
theology.
Here's the thing. So you have the New Age, right, that I just described.
Right.
Here's the problem with the word of faith stuff. It has a history that goes back to Pentecostalism, like the early revivals of Pentecostalism, right? And there's this huge debate over this. I find it fascinating because I like looking into the history of this stuff. But if you're going to look into the word of faith movement, there's controversy over if it goes back to the mind science cults in the 1800s, in the Age of Enlightenment, because of the similarities of the New Age mind science cults. And one of the things that came out of that, Kenneth Copeland teaches this, Hagen teaches this and taught this. And these were the fathers of the Word of Faith movement. Benny Hinn, the little God teaching comes from the Word of Faith movement that stemmed from early Pentecostalism. And the part of the reason why this started happening, no surprise, is they started thinking they got direct revelation from God. And all of a sudden, there was this teaching saying, yes, we are little God. So what God is, human beings have to be as well, because we can do the same things that God can do. Do you see how messed up that is?
Yep.
And you can see this today. No, I don't think there's going to be a lot of pastors, and this is why you have to read their stuff. And this is what I do. This is why I do this in ministry. There's not going to be a lot of pastors nowadays that say, hey, we're little gods. But this teaching that we can do what Jesus did, literally, more than what he did, rather, is still taught actively in so many churches today. And even the word faith, right? So you and I have a definition of what we understand faith to be. In this movement, and a lot of it, I'm just going to be honest, is in Word of Faith churches, but the hyper-charismatic churches. And I'm just going to throw one out there, Bethel, Bill Johnson, they're very big about this. And they believe and teach, and I'm talking about the leaders, because I think that's very specific to point out that the leadership is different than the lay people.
Sure.
And I'm not calling anybody's salvation into question at all. It's about the leadership, really, and what they teach. But they follow this line of thinking that what Jesus did, we can do. We can calm the weather. We can heal at will. And we have the power to manifest based on what we think and say. That's important because what you say has power and it can make things happen. And the reason why is because God had that speaking faith power to create. So we have that same power. It's messed up.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
really, this is why it's a debate and a controversy, because that ideal is way more new age in origin than biblical.